Welcome to this explainer. If I just walked up and asked you to name the world's very first religion, your mind might instantly jump to something like Hinduism, Judaism, or maybe the ancient gods of Egypt. But what if the absolute first sparks of human faith didn't involve grand temples, holy books, or specific names at all? Today, we're going to play the role of historical detectives. We're digging into the literal dawn of human belief to completely reframe this massive question about our own origins. So, let's dive right into it. The question, can we actually find the world's first religion? Well, it immediately hits a roadblock. See, we naturally tend to look for familiar structures. We look back, say, 2,000 years and find Christianity, 1,400 years and we find Islam, or 3,000 years back to the earliest sources of the Vedic traditions. But human history? It stretches back so much further than that. So the real question is, if we strip away every single one of our modern assumptions, can the dirt and stones of archaeology actually reveal humanity's absolute first religion? To solve this mystery, we really have to contrast organized religion with prehistoric religious thought. Think about it. Today, religion usually means a formal identity, right? A holy book, temples, specific gods, and highly organized traditions. Prehistoric humans living tens of thousands of years ago had literally none of those things. There were no grand temples. Nature was just this brutal, largely unexplained force. So instead of hunting for an organized religion, historians have to ask a totally different question. When did humans first start imagining unseen forces and natural spirits just to make sense of a world beyond immediate day-to-day survival?
And because those early humans didn't leave us any handy written records, we have to read history from the dirt, from broken bones and cave walls. We're going to trace the timeline of some truly incredible leaps today. From intentional burials 100,000 years ago to deep cave art 36,000 years ago, massive monuments at Göbekli Tepe around 9600 BCE, all the way to the dawn of Mesopotamian writing around 3500 BCE. Our first major clue starts roughly 100,000 years ago. There's a famous saying in archaeology that dead men tell no lies, but their graves tell the story of an entire era. And it's absolutely true. In places like the School and Kabza caves in Israel, scientists noticed a huge, distinct shift. Early modern humans and even Neanderthals in some areas actually began intentionally burying their dead. They didn't just leave the bodies behind. They deliberately placed them in the earth.
These were burials with a real purpose. Early graves contained stone tools and animal horns, showing deliberate, planned placement of the deceased. The crucial point here is asking why. Why on earth would a starving, constantly moving hunter-gatherer society spend their precious time and energy on a dead companion? And more than that, why would they bury a perfectly good stone tool in the dirt with a body instead of keeping it to hunt? Now, we can't definitively prove they believed in a soul per se, but giving up a vital survival tool for a burial, that firmly highlights the incredible power of early belief. They were clearly thinking about something far beyond just getting through the day.
All right, let's step forward in time to our next era, the Dark Caves, painting the unseen. Fast forward to about 36,000 years ago, and humanity's search for meaning goes completely pitch black. Deep underground in spaces like the Chauvet Cave in France and later Altamira and Lascaux, early humans were creating absolute masterpieces in the dark. These prehistoric cave art mysteries are wild. They were located in absolute darkness requiring torches just to see. They depicted majestic horses, bulls, lions, and left these haunting handprints. This required immense time, planning, and symbolic thought. It's solid evidence of early rituals or shamanic traditions. When someone spends this much effort on something that provides zero immediate food or safety, they are actively searching for meaning. They are engaging with the unseen.
This profound symbolic thought likely evolved into what anthropologists broadly call animism. This is essentially the belief that natural objects, natural phenomena, and the universe itself possess souls and consciousness. By studying ancient hunter-gatherer societies across places like Australia, Africa, and the Amazon, a fascinating pattern emerges. To these early folks, the forest wasn't just a bunch of wood, a river wasn't just drinking water. They viewed these natural objects and animals as having their own spirits and power. Sure, it wasn't a formal religion with a neat little name, but it was absolutely our first powerful glimpse of religious thought.
As human thought evolved, we hit a truly fascinating turning point with Göbekli Tepe, where belief builds civilization. Back in 1994, archaeologists excavating a hill in modern-day Turkey uncovered a completely mind-bending sight. Beneath the dirt, they found these massive T-shaped stone pillars standing a staggering 5 to 6 meters tall. And get this, each of these weighed up to 20 tons. That's roughly the weight of 3 adult elephants, just to put it in perspective.
Plus, they were intricately carved with all sorts of amazing images: snakes, vultures, foxes, and wild boars.
This site, Göbekli Tepe, from around 9600 BCE, flips our entire understanding of history on its head. It was built thousands of years before Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids. But most importantly, it was built way before agriculture, before cities, and before written laws. This shows us that belief actually organized human labor before civilization did. A shared belief system was the absolute glue that brought massive groups of hunter-gatherers together to do heavy lifting long before fully fledged civilizations even existed.
Which brings us to a vibrant explosion of culture. Written religions in Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt.
Around 3500 BCE, humanity develops the art of writing, and suddenly religion shifts from archaeological guesswork into documented history. When we compare these two great early civilizations, we see a really fascinating contrast. In Mesopotamia, situated right there between the Tigris and Euphrates, the focus was all on the temple economy and city patron gods like Anu, Enlil, Inanna, and Enki. Temples were the literal centers for grain storage and daily survival prayers. Ancient Egypt, on the other hand, was totally different. Their entire civilization was laser-focused on the afterlife and cosmic balance, known as Ma'at. You had gods like Osiris and pharaohs acting as divine mediators, with practices entirely centered around mummification and the literal weighing of a person's heart. For them, faith became the absolute foundation of existence.
Meanwhile, over in the East, a highly complex religious evolution was taking shape: the Indus Valley and Vedic traditions.
The Indus Valley civilization, which flourished between 3300 and 1300 BCE, leaves us with an incredible puzzle. We're talking about amazingly advanced urban centers, but with completely undeciphered scripts. There's the mysterious Pashupati seal, showing a horned, meditative figures surrounded by animals, and heavily debated mother goddess figures. What does that mean for us? It means we really don't know for sure. Some scholars suggest the seal is an early proto-Shiva, while others lean differently. Because we literally cannot read their writing, historians have to remain impartially divided, relying strictly on how we interpret the physical artifacts.
Following the Indus Valley, around 1500 to 1200 BCE, the Vedic oral tradition emerged. And what's absolutely wild about this is that it was preserved through rigorous memorization, not giant stone temples. To pass down immense texts without writing, they developed incredibly complex mathematical chanting methods, like Samhita, Pada, Krama, Jata, and Gana. It functioned almost like a biological blockchain, ensuring not a single syllable changed over thousands of years. They sang hymns dedicated to cosmic forces like Indra, Agni, and Varuna, which deepened philosophically over centuries and ultimately evolved into Hinduism, the oldest continuous living religious tradition in the world.
As these diverse polytheistic systems flourished globally, a new ideological shift began taking root in West Asia: the rise of monotheism.
This shift would dramatically alter the course of world history. It started with early Israelite traditions focusing on one supreme creator. This eventually formalized into Judaism, which established a deeply rooted monotheistic lineage of laws and texts. From this exact same Abrahamic root, Christianity eventually emerged. And later, in the 7th century CE, Islam arose in the Arabian Peninsula, historically viewing itself as the continuation and final message in this incredible historical continuity. Now, it's absolutely vital in this explainer to remember a core boundary here: history versus faith. History strictly examines the timeline of archaeological and written evidence: when a group lived, what they built, what they wrote down. It does not judge the ultimate truth of any theology. Whether a belief system is factually true in a spiritual sense, that's a matter of personal faith, and it sits completely outside the bounds of archaeological history. Our job is just to map the human journey. So, after tracing everything from Neanderthal graves to the rise of monotheism, let's get to the final verdict.
Can we definitively name the world's first religion? Well, honestly, the strict historical answer is simply no. Early humans just didn't categorize their awe and wonder the way we categorize organized religion today. There were no institutional names, no rulebooks, no formal boundaries. Human belief evolved slowly, generation by generation, taking on drastically different shapes across completely different continents.
Perhaps the first religion wasn't born in a temple, but in the silence of a cave? You know, history doesn't always give us a neat, simple answer. Instead, it teaches us to ask much better questions. The very first spark of faith was likely born in the dark, when an early human looked at the stars and thought, what else is out there?
Which leaves us with one final fascinating thought for you to take away today. If the human mind has been hardwired to search for the unseen for over 100,000 years, what will the religions of our distant future look like? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to ponder that.